So true education, real education, should begin with the knowledge of God. There is a huge emphasis, almost an obsession, in Jewish life with education. In the olden days, if you weren't a sage, you were not respected. So everyone had a sage in their family. Later it became a rabbi. Oh, my great-grandfather, he was a rabbi. Then it became college graduate, a doctor, a lawyer. What is that joke about a Jewish woman becomes the first Jew and the first woman to be president of the United States? And at the inauguration, her mother is sitting in the crowd, and the woman is introduced, President of the United States, and everybody's excited. And the mother leans over to the person sitting next to her and says, "You know who that woman is? Her brother is a doctor." That was the obsession with education. To be a president, you don't need to be educated. But to be a doctor. So the obsession with education is like an old Jewish habit. Since the event at Mount Sinai, I guess. Because all of a sudden we had a book to study. Well, 5 books. In the early years of our country, of the United States, what did education consist of? Reading the Bible. The little red schoolhouse, or the little house on the prairie, what were they teaching? Bible. In some cases, even in Hebrew, in the original Hebrew. So, there is an obsession with education. But let's understand what real education means. There are many things we know, we're smart about, we're informed, we're aware, because we saw, we heard, we felt, we tasted, or we smelled. So we discover the world around us through our senses. We know what feels good, what feels bad, what tastes good, what tastes bad, what smells good, what smells terrible. We know because our senses tell us. You don't need a big brain for that. And that's not really education. Education would mean to get to know things that your senses cannot tell you. When you get to know things you don't see, when you understand things you've never touched, now you're using your brain. The brain, unlike your senses, can think in the abstract. I don't have to hold it in my hand to know that it's real. I don't have to see it to figure out how it works. I can work it out mathematically, I can work it out theoretically, I can work it out purely in my brain. So what, for example, would constitute abstract thinking? The effect that planets have on each other. We know that a planet exists because we see its effect on the other planets, but we will never see the planet itself. Maybe it doesn't even exist anymore. So we can tell that something exists by its effect without having to see it, touch it, measure it, weigh it, taste it, hear it. Oh, okay, that's abstract thinking. I remember in our math courses that we took, if you have so many and so many apples and you take away so many and so many, how many will you be left with? And the question bothered me. What do you mean, if you take away so many apples? Don't take away the apples. There seemed to be like an inconsistency. Numbers are real. If you subtract a number, well, what do you mean if? Don't. Why are you doing that? Don't complicate things. So the if you do became like an abstract concept, and yet you're trying to figure out concrete information. How many apples will you have left to eat? And what is the question? A hypothetical possibility. But is that really a hypothetical? Is it really abstract to say, if you take away 2 out of 5 apples, how many will you be left with? It may not be something that actually happened to you in your life. You never had 5 apples and had to give up 2 of them. Never. Does that make it really abstract? When you're counting the apples, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Before you count the 4 and the 5, how many apples do you have? So far, 3. So there's nothing abstract about this. These are concrete things, concrete numbers, concrete possibilities. So even sophisticated math is not purely theoretical. What then would be truly theoretical, for which we need the much vaunted human brain? The truly abstract subject in the universe is, how do you go from nothing to something? Nothing is totally abstract. As soon as you're talking about something, I'm on familiar grounds. I know something. But when you start talking about no thing, whoa. My senses cannot help me at all. So even if we're talking about an electron, the electron is in constant motion. It has very high energy field. Well, I know what that means. I've been an electron after the 3rd cup of coffee. So it's just a matter of adjusting it a little bit, because it's another form of something I am familiar with through my senses, which means it's not abstract. The truly abstract is God. How do you go from non-being to being, from non-existing to existing? That's a worthy subject. So true education, real education, should begin with the knowledge of God. Everything else is commentary. So if we want to be truly educated people, meaning that we're actually taking advantage of our brain's ability, the brain functions best when it is most disconnected from the senses. The further away you get from the world of sensation, the more abstract you become. The more abstract, the better the brain function, because that's what the brain was created for, to tell you things that your senses will never experience. Sadly, this is the one thing scientists don't want to deal with. The question of how you go from not being to being, they don't want to deal with it. They say it's not science, it's philosophy. Or you can call it whatever you want. The question remains, how does nothing become something? And it's a fascinating question. Precisely because my senses cannot help me at all. But the Torah does. Jewish education, Jewish learning, Jewish knowledge has always found that challenge delicious, irresistible. So getting to know God is the ultimate abstract concept. And when you master it, you have used your brain for what the brain is supposed to be. Not to help your senses sort out what sensations you're going through. So our brain is not here to fill in the details of what our senses experience. That's backwards. The senses are supposed to serve the brain, not the other way around. And that's why in the utopian vision of a perfected world, you have this scene or this picture where the whole world is busy studying, debating, probing, questioning, searching into the most abstract of subjects. God's will, God's vision, God's plan, God Himself. The optimistic, encouraging news is that people are already starting to show an interest beyond science to the creator of the world. I guess maybe science has hit some kind of a ceiling. There isn't much more to know about what exists. And so naturally the question moves on to why. Now that we've pretty much mastered space, you got to ask yourself what's beyond space. We've reached the moon, now we can reach Mars. Now, next we'll reach a further star, but the mystery is gone. Just give me a better vehicle and I'll get to the outer edges of the universe. So pretty much we've conquered that. Do we have to really visit every star in the galaxy in order to? No, pretty much all alike. So where does the mind go? The mind goes to what lies beyond. The universe is only so big. Well, what's beyond it? The universe is only so old. What was there before it? Now we're talking abstract. It's fascinating. So that would be called a serious education. Anything less than that is just exploration. Let's see what this tastes like. Let's see what that feels like. Let's see what that sounds like. Don't need a brain for that. So you can say, I read the Bible. God said, let there be light, and there was light. What kind of magic is this? I don't believe in that stuff. No. You're not meant to believe it. You're meant to ponder it and get to understand it. It didn't exist, but it came into existence because God said. Work it out. How does a non-existent become existent? It's a real challenge. That's what you need your brain for.
If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic, and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there's a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it. I want to invite you to join us as VIPs, partners in our work, and join us also for a personal chat with other members of the VIP club. We talk about many things. There's an opportunity to ask, to respond, to make a comment, to meet the other supporters. And together we can really make a difference in Jewish life and in life in general. So join us. It's goodtoknow.org. Log in, call, make contact, and join us with the VIPs.